This video is sponsored by DevMountain. If you're interested in learning web development, iOS, or UX design, DevMountain is a 12-week design and development bootcamp intended to get you a full-time position in the industry. To learn more, visit devmountain.com or click the link in the description below. Hey, what's going on, guys? So in this video, we're going to experiment a little bit with Python and a package called Folium, which allows us to generate maps for the browser. And the way that it does this is it uses Leaflet.js, which is actually a JavaScript library for interactive maps, as you can see down here. But what Folium does is it brings the power of Python and data into Leaflet or combines them together. So if you have like a database or something where you want to hold all your coordinates and all your data, your map data, and then you can display them in Leaflet in the browser. So that's what we're going to do. I'm going to show you how to generate a map, how to use markers, customize markers. We're going to deal a little bit with Vega visualizations in the pop-ups for the markers. Also GeoJSON, which we can actually highlight around a certain area and plot that on the map. So we're going to do a few things here. It's going to be like a crash course. So let's jump into VS Code, and I would recommend that you take what you learn here and create a project from it. Like I was saying in my last video where I talked a little bit about expanding on tutorials and how to get more out of them. So you want to create something from what you've learned. But that's just what I would suggest. I mean, obviously you guys don't have to do that. So I have an empty file called map.py, nothing at all in it. And obviously you need Python installed. You can go to python.org and install Python 3. If you're on Windows, you can probably just use Python. But if you're on Mac, you'll see Python 2.7 is probably installed by default. So if you install 3, you'll have Python 3. All right, so you can see I have 3.7. So I'll have to use pip3. And you can use virtual env or pip env or something like that if you want, but I'm going to keep it simple and just install Folium globally. So I'm going to say pip3 install Folium, and it went really fast because I actually already have it installed globally. But now that that's installed, I can go into my map.py and I can import Folium. And what we want to do here is create a map object to work with. So we do that by assigning a variable. I'm going to call it m, and then we're going to say folium.map. And this is going to take in a couple things. It's going to take in the location, which is like the starting point or the center point of the map. And my map is going to be in Boston, Massachusetts, but you can use any location you'd like. If you want to follow along to a T, then obviously use the same coordinates I am. So it's going to be 42.3601 and negative 71.0589. That's going to be our center point, and we want to set the zoom start to, I'm going to say 12. Okay, and then we just call m.save, and what this is going to do is it's going to generate, let me just put a comment here, generate map. It's going to actually generate an HTML file that will have all the leaflet dependencies, everything like that, all the JavaScript that's needed to display the map. We just need to put a name of a file in here. So let's do map HTML. So just these 3 lines of code should allow us to generate an HTML page with a nice looking map. We just need to run the file first. So we'll say python 3 map.py. And over here, you'll see that it generated this map HTML file that has all the leaflet CSS and JavaScript, font awesome, bootstrap. Obviously, you can change this up and insert it into your own project and do what you want with it. But we're just going to open this file. And I'm using live server, so I'm going to say open with live server. And there we go. So we have a map generated. Okay, so obviously, I mean, we can zoom in and out. We can drag along here, but this isn't very useful to us, so let's actually move on to create some markers. Okay, so let's go back to VS Code, close up the HTML file, and let's say create markers. So to create a marker, we just want to say folium.marker, and this is going to take in a couple things. It's going to take in the position, the coordinates. So for this marker, let's do 42.363 600 and negative 71.099 500. Okay, so that's going to be our coordinate. Second parameter is going to be pop-up. And pop-up is when you click on the marker, what do we want to show? So you can actually put HTML in here. So I'm just going to put a strong tag. And in here, let's say location 1. All right, and I'm just going to put this on a separate line like that. And the next parameter we want is actually going to be the tooltip. So the tooltip is when you hover over it, and I want every tooltip to be the same. I just want it to basically say click for more. So I'm going to create a variable called tooltip, and we'll go up here and do that. So let's say global tooltip, and we'll set this to a string, and we'll just say click for more info. All right, now the final thing we have to do for this marker to actually plot on the map is we need to call the add_to method, add_to, and then we have to pass in the map object, which is just m. Okay, so we'll save this, and then we just have to run the file again, so python map.py, and let's check it out. And now we have our marker. If I hover over it, we'll see click for more info. If I click it, we get location 1. And obviously you can make this a lot nicer. You could add, I don't know, if you do restaurants or something, you could put the name and a little image and the address, all that stuff, buttons, all types of stuff. So again, you can come up with ideas to actually build a cool application with. All right, so I'm going to add some other markers where we can actually customize some stuff. Let me just put a comma here. And I want to show you how we can change the color. And we can do that by using full icon and icon attribute. So I'm going to copy it so I don't have to keep typing in stuff that's very similar. If you want to copy it, you can. If you want to pause the video or whatever, or just go to the GitHub repo. But this folium.marker has a different set of coordinates that's close by. Pop-up is location 2. Tooltip is the same. Now we have an icon attribute that's set to folium.icon, and then we passed in icon equals cloud. Okay, so this will give us a little cloud icon. So let's save this and run the file and go to our browser, and now you can see we have a little icon of a cloud. Okay, works the same way though, it's just looks different. Now we can also change colors because it's by default it's blue. So let's say we want it to be purple. Just paste this in here, and same stuff, different coordinates, except here I set, instead of icon, I set color equals to purple. So if we save that, run it, and go back to Chrome, now you can see we have a purple marker that has a default icon of just the info I. Now if you want to change the color and the icon, of course you can do that. So let's get a green marker with a leaf icon. So to do that, we do the same thing. We just pass in color and then just pass in icon equals leaf. Okay, so if we run that and take a look, now we have a green icon with a leaf. And if you look in the documentation, you'll find all the different icon options. You can also use material icons. You can use Font Awesome and pretty much any icon library. All right, so now what I want to do is show you how to use a custom image. And I'm actually going to use my Traversy Media logo. So this is our project right here. And I'm just going to bring over the PNG logo. So I want to use this as an actual marker. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go under the tooltip and say create custom marker icon. So I'm going to call this logo icon, and let's set this to folium.features.custom icon, and it's going to take in the file, so logo.png, and then it's going to take in the size, which I'm going to set to 50 and 50. Okay, now to use this is very easy. We're going to do it just like we did down here. I guess I'll just copy that. Make sure put a comma right there. Actually, we should have commas after all of these. So we're going to change the coordinates up here for this custom icon marker. And I'm going to change these to, let's see, 40. Let's do 42.375140. And then let's do negative 71.032450. And we'll say location 5. Now, instead of doing folium.icon and all this, we don't have to do that. We can just simply put in logo icon that we created above. So let's save that and run it. And we got an error, keyword argument, unexpected keyword argument size. That's because we put size here. It should actually be icon underscore size. All right, so let's run that and let's check it out. And there we go. So now we have a custom image as our marker. And it works the same way. Click on it, we can get the pop-up. All right, now I want to show you how to use a circle marker, which allows us to basically have like a circle around a certain area. So I'm actually going to put the circle around up here, Lynn, Mass, where I was actually born. So I want to put like just a blue circle around this area. So let's head back into VS Code and we'll go under the last marker and let's put a comment here saying this is a circle marker. Okay, so we want to do folium.circle marker. And this is going to take in a bunch of values. One is going to be the location. So we want to specify location equals. And for this, we're going to do 42.466.470. Okay, and the next one is, or the longitude is going to be negative 70.942110. Okay, so that's the location. Next is the radius, which I'm going to say, so you can make it as big or as small as you want. I'm going to say 50. Next, we're going to do the pop-up. So I'll just put a string here. I'll just say my birthplace. And next we're going to do the color, which we could do hexadecimal. So I'm going to do hexadecimal blue, which is 428 BCA. We could also do a fill, but we need to make sure we do fill equals true and then fill underscore color. And I'm going to do the color the same. And it's actually going to have an opacity to it, so it's not just like a solid circle. So 428 BCA. Oops, we forgot the number sign. All right, so that should do it. We just need to do add to, just like we did above. Add to our map object. And we'll save. Let's run the file and check it out. And there we go. So now we have this circle around Lynn, Mass. All right, so markers, customizing markers, custom image, circle marker. Now let's look at some other things. Let's look at Vega visualization. So I'm not too familiar with this, but I think it's kind of cool. Vega visualizations. So just stuff like this, like graphs and plots and all that. We can use that by default with Folium. So I'm going to give you a pretty simple example using a JSON file that has some data in it for this visualization. So if you go to the GitHub repository, you'll find, let's see, you'll find a folder called data and a file called vis.json. So we're going to create a folder called data and we're going to bring over that vis.json file. Okay, so this is just this is a document that was part of the documentation, and you'll see it has an X and Y axis. The X is the time, the Y is the dominant wave period. I'm not exactly sure what this data is, but I just want to show you how we can have this as a pop-up in for one of our markers. All right, so first thing, we need to bring this file in. So we're actually going to import the OS package, which is a default package. It's like the path module if you're familiar with Node.js. And we're going to go right below where we did the icon, and let's say Vega data, I don't know. And then let's create a variable called vis, and we can grab this with using the OS module path.join, and we want to look in the data folder, and we want to look at the file vis.json. Okay, so we want to bring that in, and then we want to create a new marker. So let's copy one of these. Just grab this last one here. All right, and let's see. Paste that in, and the location for this marker is going to be 42.315.140, and let's do -71.072.450. All right, now let's see. The pop-up is going to be the actual visualization. Let's see. Tooltip, I guess we can keep that. We're going to get rid of this icon. We'll get rid of the tooltip. But the pop-up, we're going to change this. It's not just going to be a string. What we want to do here is say folium.popup, because you can have custom pop-ups. All right, and we can set a max width for the pop-up, which we'll set to 450 pixels, and then we want to do .addChild. Okay, so basically, what do we want to add in this 450 max width pop-up? And it's the Vega visualization, and we can actually use folium.vega. Okay, so Folium Vega, and then we need to basically look at that JSON file. So I'm gonna go up here and just import the JSON package, and we're going to say folium.vega and then json.load, and inside this json.load method we want to run open, and we want to pass in vis, which is our variable that we created up here that contains the path to the file. Okay, and that should do it. So let's save and let's run the file and go back to Chrome, and now this is the one that we just created. If I click it, there we go. We get some cool visualizations here, and I'm not really sure what this data is of. It's just an example that I found. We should probably make this longer though, because it's like going off the pop-up. So let's set that to 550, see if that helps. No? I don't know why that's weird. What did I do? Oh, you know what? We need to set, I'm going to set that back to 450. We can actually set the child width and height. So right here, add child with which ends right here. I'm going to put a comma, and we're going to say width equals 450, and we can also do a height, which I'm going to set to 250. So that should keep it contained. Whoops, what did I do wrong? Actually, it should go 2 parentheses after. Let me just go back. So right here, and then width 450, height 250. Okay. All right, let's check that out. Okay, so now the visualization is actually contained in the pop-up. All right, so the next thing I want to do is deal a little bit with GeoJSON. If you don't know what GeoJSON is, it's basically a format for encoding like geographic data structures, so line strings, polygons. What I want to do is use it to outline the borders of a city and plop that on our map. So instead of like doing the hard code, what I'm going to do is go to geojson.io, and what this site allows us to do is use kind of like a GUI to create these data structures. So I'm going to go to the location that our map is on, just bring it in here. All right, so we're working in like this area, Cambridge. So what I want to do is create what's called a line string around the city of Cambridge. And over here you can see we have a tool for a polyline, which is what we're going to use. We also have polygon, rectangle, draw a marker. So I'm going to hit this line here. And if you guys want to use a different area in the world, that's fine too. But I'm just going to I'm not going to make this really like accurate, but I'm just going to go around like this. And just come to the end here. And it says click last point to finish line. So if you click the last dot, it kind of just outlines, you know, wherever you clicked. And I know that that's not it's a pretty crappy border, but it doesn't really matter for this tutorial. And you can see each point has a coordinates array, okay, or it is an item in the coordinates array. And this has a type of feature collection, and the type is a line string. Okay, so this is a type of GeoJSON metric, I guess. So I'm going to grab all of this stuff and just copy it, and we're going to head back into VS Code, and inside the data folder, let's create a new file, and I'm just going to call this overlay.json, and we're going to paste that data in here. Okay, so we'll save that. I have Prettier installed with VS Code, so it just kind of made this a little more readable. Now that we've done that, let's bring that file in, just like we did with the Vega visualization. Say GeoJSON data, and let's say overlay equals os .path .join. And we want to go into the data folder, and we want the overlay.json file. All right, now let's see what else. Now to use GeoJSON, it's actually pretty easy because Folium has a method called GeoJSON. So we can just go right down here, and let's say GeoJSON overlay, and we'll say Folium .geojson, and we want to put in the variable, which is overlay, and then the name, which I'll just say Cambridge, and then we just want to add that to our map. So add to our map. So let's save this and let's run the file. Let's head back over to Chrome. Okay, this is geojson.io. This is not our map. Let's go to our map, and there it is. Okay, so we were able to add this outline, and it's very, very crappy outline, but think of what you could do. I mean, you could highlight certain areas for whatever the app is for. The possibilities are endless. So now the last thing I want to do is show you how to create a choropleth map, which we're actually going to have a map of the United States and have different states shaded in due to their unemployment rate, okay, or according to their unemployment rate. So we have a couple files of data that we're going to use. We're going to close up map.py. We're done with that file. But in the GitHub repository, you should have a US states.json file, which I'm going to put in now, and you should have a US unemployment CSV file. And these are the two files we're going to use to create our map. So let's take a look at the data first. So US states, we just have an object here. The type is feature collection. We have an array of features, and each one represents a state, okay? And we have all the coordinates to kind of draw out the states. And you can find different files like this online to use. So the ID, it's important to note the ID because we're going to use this inside of our code, and the ID is going to be the abbreviation of the state. Okay, so that's, for instance, Alabama, then we have Alaska, and so on. Okay, so it's a pretty long file of just coordinates. So that's the state. Then we have the unemployment rates, which is a CSV file. So we just have the actual state, the abbreviation, and then the unemployment rate. Okay, so pretty simple. Now, to create this map, let's create a new file, and we'll call this map2.py. All right, now we're going to be using an analysis tool called pandas. Let me just say pandas Python. So pandas is a Python data analysis library providing high performance, easy to use data structures and data analysis tools. So we're going to use this basically to analyze the CSV file. So we do have to install this. Okay, let's go back to VS Code and let's say pip3 install pandas. And I already have installed, so it's going to go really quick. All right, now this file actually isn't going to be that big, and it actually does something pretty cool. So let's import Folium. Let's import pandas. We're going to say pandas as PD. Oops, PD, and we want to import OS. Okay. So first thing we'll do is create our states variable. This is going to represent the US states data, this file here, US states .json. So let's set that to os.path.join. That's in the data folder, and the file is us-states.json. Okay, so that's our states. Let's do our unemployment data. Okay, so unemployment data os.path.join data, and that file is us-unemployment.json, right? Yeah. Okay, so now we need to create our state data, and this is where we use pandas. So we're going to say state data equals PD. Remember, we're using pandas as PD, and it has a method called read CSV. Okay, so we want that, and then we want to pass into that the unemployment data, which is, oops, I'm sorry, this should be CSV, not JSON. So CSV. Okay. So now that we have these variables, now we're going to use Folium to create our map. So just like we did in the other file, we're going to set a map object. So this is going to be folium.map, and it's going to take in a location, an initial location, and for this we're going to do 48 and -102, and we're going to give it a zoom start of 3. Okay, so here's where we want to create our choropleth map. So we want to take a map object and call .choropleth, and we want to pass in a bunch of stuff here for this to work. So we want, first of all, geodata, and geodata is actually going to be our states. So it's our us-states.json file. That's our geodata. Next we want just a name, so we'll call this choropleth. Next we want our data, which is going to be the state data, okay, which we got from using panda .read CSV, and we passed in the unemployment data. So next we want the columns. It has to know which columns we're using, which is going to be a list of just state and unemployment. Okay. Next we're going to do key underscore on, because it needs to basically know what it's using as a key, and that's going to be, if we look in the us-states.json, we want to use the ID, which is the abbreviation. Now if you look for this file online, this is actually wrong. It's gonna, the IDs are going to be like 01, 02, 03, and it wasn't working for me, so what I had to do is change them to the actual abbreviations, all the IDs, and then it worked. So if you do get this file anywhere else, you'll probably have to change that. So we want to say that the key is going to be the feature .id. Okay. So key on. Next thing we want is the fill color, and this is actually going to take in a sequence, which is going to be YLGN. So it's going to be like a sequence of greenish yellow colors. And then we also want a fill opacity, which we're going to set to 0.7, and we also set a line opacity. And there's other properties you can use as well to kind of customize it, but line opacity. And then there's going to be a legend of, you know, the unemployment rates, and it gets created automatically by the data, but we can give it a name. So let's say legend name, and let's set that to unemployment rate %. Okay, so that's pretty much it. That's all we need to actually create this map from this data. So, well, actually, one more thing we need to do is call the layer control method, and then actually add it to the map. So we want add to, and then our map, and then finally we need to save, which will create an HTML file. So we'll call that HTML file map2.html. Okay, so that's it. Not that much code. Now let's run this by saying python 3 map2.py. Let's see, looks like something US-unemployment dot hold on. Oh, it's an underscore, not a hyphen. All right, let's try that again. Okay, so now we have a map2.html, and has a lot of stuff in it. Look at that, a lot of coordinates. So now that we've done that, let's run the map2.html. So I'm going to just stop my live server, and I'm going to open map2 with my live server. And there we go. I could have probably zoomed it in a little more. Well, actually, if we want to fit Alaska in there, we have to zoom out. But yeah, you can see up here there's a legend, and the reason that it's from 3 to 10 is because it automatically set that from the data. If we look at the unemployment rates here, it's all between 3 and 10. So it created the legend to fulfill that. If we had like 15 in there or something like that, the legend would automatically stretch to 15. And then you can see the different colors for each state. Okay, and I mean, you could add markers, you can do, you know, the rest of the other stuff that we did in the other map, you could add, and you could make it, you know, more in depth, or add extra functionality. But that's really it, guys. I think that's a good place to stop, and hopefully this gives you some idea of how to use Folium and Leaflet and create maps, and maybe you can integrate it into an existing application or create a new one. But that's it. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you did, please leave a like, and I will see you next time. I just want to give a quick shout out to one of my patrons, Carlos Mafla, who also has a YouTube channel where he does a lot of front-end development with React and ES6, and teaches you about Git and even some DevOps stuff like Chef. So check his channel out. I'll put a link in the description below.